Hey everybody, welcome back to my mind. Today I want to share with you my experiences as I recovered from OCD, but pre the recovery, how I navigated relationships. Relationships was really tough for me. I find that really ironic because relationships is, as I said in my last video, something I really value. It's one of the highest things I value in my life. But as I was recovering, I didn't manage them well. And it honestly affected me negatively. And it was one of the times in my life where I was like, dang, I have to take care of myself first. So to be more specific, my romantic relationships, especially my last one, really did not work out, and it was the first time I realized in a romantic relationship how much I have been holding in and hiding from my recovery program, or from recovering from OCD is what I mean. It was the first relationship that things went so south, and it wasn't his fault, it wasn't my fault. It was like obviously a timing thing, and he also had things he needed to work on for himself. And I finally realized that I was in a spot where if I stayed in the relationship, I was never going to be the best version of myself. I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's not a dig on him or anything like that. It's just I had no capacity to share love with another human being because I, A, didn't love myself, and B, didn't have the what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't have the tools to love myself and to learn how healing works, and how recovery for my specific OCD works. So I think that was the biggest lesson I learned in my last relationship. Is, if you take anything from this video, is the lesson I learned in that route, and I want you to take from this video, is that my self had to become a priority. And that is not in a selfish way at all, because that's something I do very well with certain things, like my physical health and whatnot. But when it comes to like an emotional standpoint and an emotional being, I didn't used to do that. I didn't prioritize myself. I would just want to fix things in other people, and I would want to I wanted to know why they were the way they were. I wanted to know how come they couldn't communicate the way I felt they should have communicated. But in reality, that's not what I should have been focusing on at that point. And that's what I learned from my last romantic relationship, is that I needed to learn about myself and why I was the way I was, and why I masked all my problems, and why I used alcohol to have fun and not take the time to go to therapy. You know what I mean? Like I did not do that. And so I think in my last romantic relationship, he and I had a great journey together, and I will forever value that journey, because I've never felt a love from another human being before in that sense. And we had a lot of good times and memories and all of that, but that relationship was meant to be for us both to grow as human beings, and that's the biggest thing I learned from my past relationship. And when it comes specifically to OCD, I tended to blame him almost for not understanding my OCD, and I tended to, and that's crazy because like he was the one person who actually wanted to understand, but like when we would get into arguments, excuse me, I felt like I didn't use the tool. I didn't know any tools yet, so I just would blame him, and I would get frustrated, and then our communication continued to just do this, and it wasn't this in like a healthy way. It was more like this. Um, so as I exited that relationship and removed myself from that relationship, that's when I started my recovery program, and that's when I got like the help I needed. And I did it on my own, and yes, I had support from family and friends, but the biggest thing is that I had to realize like my boyfriend at the time wasn't gonna be able to do exposure therapy and say the hard things out loud that I needed to say, and go to the grocery store and touch things that freaked me out. And you know what I mean? Like he wasn't going to do that for me. I had to do it. My mom couldn't do that for me. My best friend couldn't do that for me. I had to do it. And as I continued to do those things and learn about what is happening in my brain and what was making me cycle for hours and hours and hours and not be able to leave my house and not be able to get chores done, that was when I finally realized, okay, I'm able to open myself up to love. Like the love I have has always been there, but now I can actually give it at the time needed for another person. So I think that having OCD in a relationship is inevitable, but if you don't, for me, if I didn't practice I didn't know him at the time, but now if I don't practice what I know and how I've learned to navigate my OCD and my anxiety, and if I don't do that, then I'm not setting myself up for success, and I'm not giving my best version of myself. And I am now the best version of myself, and so that's the biggest thing is for the future, is that I need to continue to be the best version of myself and continue to do my exposures and continue to check in with therapists, continue to be involved, to continue to learn maybe other methods or other ways to cope. Sometimes it's the way you've learned, and if it works, it works. Like, I'm not saying I need to like continue to learn new ways every time, but the point I'm trying to say is I have to continue to check in with myself, and whether that's journaling, meditating, literally verbalizing out loud my fears and what would happen if I don't do my compulsion, like whatever it may be, I have to continue to do that in order to give my all to someone. So that is going to wrap this one up. Actually, really quick before I wrap this one up, it wasn't just in a romantic setting where this was happening. I was fighting a lot of my friendships, and I was getting angry because I just felt so misunderstood and so mad, and like I wasn't getting responses I needed, so I would continue to text a billion times. And these are just examples of how I sabotaged other relationships. Luckily, I have such a strong support system that most of my relationships that I felt that I sabotaged are still fine. And obviously I'm my biggest critic, so people that knew that what I was doing and what I was going through and my therapy program maybe didn't feel like the whole relationship was sabotaged. They were just more of support, and I can't thank them enough to this day. So yeah, it doesn't just happen romantically. It happens in any type of relationship, and that's why I can't stress enough to take care of yourself first, because you are your biggest cheerleader. You live in your own head. You know what you're going through. I couldn't expect other people to understand me when I didn't even take care of myself to understand myself. So with that being said, I hope you all have a great week, or having a great week, and we'll check back in on the next video of my mind. Thanks, guys.